Sweet. Welcome, everyone, to our first podcast in our new studio here. I'm joined today by Aravaipa race director Noah Dougherty and
Welcome.
co-founder of the Mogollon Monster 100. And that's what we're here to talk today about. So,
Time has come.
today, August 19th, race is coming up in a few weeks. What is it, September 11th and 12th?
Yep.
And we have an exciting change this year. So the Monster is evolving into a point-to-point, ready or not, here it comes.
Pretty dramatic change. Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. Do you maybe let's kick it back a little bit to how did this race come about? Was this the brainchild of your brother, or you guys like running together up there? Tell us a little bit about what is the Mogollon Monster, where did it come from?
Yeah, this was Jeremy's definitely the brainchild here. I don't remember exactly the timing of like how we came up onto the rim and running those, but I remember like one of the first loops we did was the Houston Brothers back Fred Haught and around, and we were like, this place is unbelievable, like ferns up to your waist and super beautiful single track and stuff. And then this was in probably like 2010, 2011. He started to try to figure out a course that would like get you up and around the rim and everything. And Jeff Jones played a big role, I think, because he knew the area really well at the time, or still does. But so they were kind of working on the course, and then we just kind of like rolled it out in 2012 was our first year. So that was a 106 miler. And you made the trip.
Yep. I signed up for it. It was wild. Yeah. So like I known about the Zane Grey Highline Trail 50 miler, which was
That's right. Yeah.
pretty epic. And that the point of that race is basically the entire Highline Trail, which runs below the rim from Pine to the 260 trailhead.
Yeah.
And it's like, just because of the amount of water that comes off of the rim, like all the trails get chewed up, and there's rocks and stream crossings and everything.
Yeah. And it's probably not as highly trafficked as you might think, being like a national historic trail, but it's pretty epic with views, and it just kind of grinds you down. And they've been doing a lot of work on that. So the Monster did use sections kind of throughout, but to make it different, it was like you'd use 9 miles of Highline and then go up the rim and then spend time in the cabin loop, which is also a pretty incredible area that I think a lot of people don't know about, right? Like in the Arizona. And so it was really cool. And then, we did that for, I guess, till 2016. So it was like 4 or 5 years of directing the race. Him and I just kind of trial and error, figuring it out and kind of going on our own, where it was like we worked in hotels at the time and just trying to figure out, we would just recruit people that knew nothing about the races to come volunteer with us and stuff. And so we'd have like hoteliers come in and running aid stations.
At least they're in the hospitality industry.
Yeah,
so.
it was great.
And I thought the volunteers were awesome that first year I did it.
Yeah.
It's really good.
Yeah, and we still have some, like Linda Van and Kate Hansen, they'll still come out and run Pinchot for us like 10 years later. So it's cool to have the same volunteers kind of still coming out, and they almost have like an invested interest in the race themselves, Now, then it's the other thing that's kind of funny about Mogollon is like this would be the 10th running of the 100 miler, because I think with last year we had cancellation because of COVID and whatnot, but we've probably had like 6 different courses. It's just for whatever reason.
Well, because like you mentioned, they are improving the Highline Trail, but when they do that, they take a little of the oomph out of it. They lengthen it, make it less steep, but they add distance. So we probably have like a 115 mile race now if it wasn't for some of the changes.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. So, and then that kind of happened again, where I think you were asking, you're like, well, what is the Monster, right? Because it was like when we were talking about the point to point, I was like, wow, that's like a dramatic change from like what we've created and what we built. It's crazy to think like, is it really the Monster anymore? And then you start to think about it, it's like, well, what is the Monster? Like it's changed so many times and we've run so many different iterations of it that's like, is this now the best course that we can come up with? And it probably is, right? Like at least we think it is.
Yeah, so like laying it out, like kind of like why we're doing this, or I think James Benet, I think, is the one we got to credit him for.
That's true. He did
coming up with like this version. So he sent me one day. It was a 93 mile route, and it was it included every single trail that you can go up or down the rim that's an official Forest Service trail from the 260 trailhead back to Pine.
Right.
So finish line will like be the same. It's not changing at all. But I think his kind of thing was like, well, what happens if you hit every trail? And that's what we've done with this course. So instead of like the Zane Grey Highline was always Pine to 260. Now this is 260 back to Pine. But instead of just running the Highline, every time there's a trail to go up the rim, you go up it. And then every time there's one to go down it, you go down it. Yeah. And you make your way kind of winding back. So, I mean, it's now point to point. There are now 6 climbs of the rim. There's previously 4.
Yep.
And
and it's really pretty in that eastern edge of the rim too. Like you start higher. I think we were joking around, like it's technically a net downhill 100-miler.
Yeah, exactly. I think it's like 1,200 feet difference.
Yeah, because you start so pretty close to the top of the rim in the beginning. So, but you got to run the first 40 miles last weekend, or 42 we found.
Yeah, I mean, Noah and I have been scouting it, I think, in little pieces over the last year and a half or so. I did a run. We got snowed out up on top, so we couldn't make it to all of the trails. But yeah, we did. There was a group of us. Most everyone with the group is signed up for the race, and we did the first 42 to Myrtle. So we did the first 4 major climbs. And yeah, wanted to talk a little bit about it. It's challenging. I mean, that is a lot of gain. It was 8,000 feet to climb in the first 40. And the technical, you know, when you get close to the top of the rim, it's basically a cliff face. So it gets very steep at the top. But up on top, it's really runnable. Yep. And then the trails down below get a lot nicer too. Like Horton Creek Trail, oh my gosh. That is
gorgeous.
It's one of the nicest trails. There's waterfalls. You're next to the creek the whole way.
Yep.
There's a spring.
An actual spring. You see the source.
It's coming right out of the rock. You can just drink right from it.
Yeah.
So yeah, I mean, I love it. I think it's going to be pretty amazing because Myrtle used to be the far eastern edge of the course.
Yeah, exactly.
And now you do 42 miles just to get to there.
Yeah.
Which is really cool.
Yeah, and I kind of forget about it, but when I did it for 2 days, that section, it was within like 5 miles. You have some incredible views on that Rim Vista Trail where you're, I mean, it looks pretty impressive. So, and you get to see the edge of the rim a lot. And if you've never seen it, it kind of does like make you look at it twice because you're like, holy cow, like this is unbelievable how far out it is and how far you can see. So, but it's tough, right? Like I think, like you were saying, like the 8,600 feet of gain or 8,200 or whatever it was, like it doesn't even say how hard it can be. You know?
Yeah, I mean, it took us 13 hours to get that first 42 done. So I think part of this is like, it's a little bit of like a warning, like be prepared. The whole race isn't that difficult. Like after Myrtle, it mellows out significantly. Like when you're up on the cabin loop, as a lot of you know who have been here before, it's nice running. I mean, there's still some climbing here and there, but it's great.
The terrain is easier for sure.
Easier terrain. But yeah, there's some old school Highline still there in between Fish Hatchery and Myrtle that it's just rocky, and those, you know, the ferns are grown up right now. It's so green out there right now. If you're not in Arizona right now, we have got so much rain lately.
Unbelievable.
It's incredible. It's super green. I think we posted a couple photos up there, but we'll have a video of that training run coming out on the Run Steep Get High channel pretty shortly here. You can kind of get a sense of what it's like.
Yeah, and I think they're just constantly getting storms. We've had just an unbelievable season here where it seems like everybody else in the West is kind of on fire, like extreme heat. We've had like the nicest summer. After the middle of June, we've been really lucky. So the Rim, which is great for them because they had a bad winter, but with that brings like high grasses and ferns it'll make it quite an experience. So
it's like Jurassic Park out there.
Yeah.
So talk to us with this point to point. There's obviously going to be some changes to the aid stations. Do you have any insights on that? I know it's all going to be posted on the website, but anything for someone who's towing the line this year to look out for?
Yeah, so I think there's a couple stretches. We try to keep it as manageable as possible. There's a couple stretches that are in that 10 to 11 and a half mile range where you climb the rim basically run down a mile or two and then go straight back down the rim. So you do that for a little while, actually really throughout the race, because you do it again at Donahue, like mile 80 or 75. But yeah, so I mean, there's 10 aid stations, and we think it's all manageable the way it is. I think it kind of works out nicely. We have certain restrictions within the national forest, because it's now 3 national forests that we're permitting with. And the bottom of the rim is pretty much a non-serviceable area. So our goal is to have everybody that has a crew, they'll be kind of just following the course along the top of the rim. And then the bottom of the rim, we will have our aid stations. I think there's 5 and a couple drop bag spots. But yeah, I think we'll just kind of go. Our goal is to have everybody basically stay on top of the rim, because it's more accessible and it flows better. They're not dead end roads. Makes it a little bit easier to kind of get people from point to A to point B without congestion on the rim, because that is always a concern up there, because it's not made for big events, It's just not. So we're trying to find ways to spread people out and allow you to see friends and family on course without causing issues on the rim, because there's a lot of other just regular traffic up there for OHVs, and there's a lot of lakes and campgrounds and stuff. So there will be traffic on the road in general. So just trying to keep our, impact as small as possible. Other thing is, we kind of deliberated a lot about this too, would be the cutoffs. We've always had a 36-hour cutoff, including when we had a 106-mile course. And this year, because we really don't have a good gauge of how long it's going to take, we've decided to extend that. So I'm sure that'll make some people happy, not having to. So I think we're settled on 38 hours, and we'll just kind of go from there. So I think that extra time period could make the difference because of the extra climbs, and we'll see. But that's kind of a big change as well for the race. And then in the 100K, that's a point-to-point now, which is really a pretty epic 100K. I think people will really like that. So hopefully we can get some traction with that race too. But that'll start basically 30 miles into the 100-mile course at Fish Hatchery, and follow mostly the rest of the way, except they get to go up West Weber.
Yeah.
Which is awesome.
Yeah, for sure. And then we've got a marathon 42K on Sunday now.
Yeah.
Now it's changed up a little bit.
Still a really cool course. Yeah, that one, in the past, they would basically flip-flop 2 climbs, right? So in the past, you would go down Turkey Springs, up West Weber. Now you're going to go down West Weber, up Turkey Springs. And I don't know which one would be easier, honestly.
Yeah.
It'll be interesting.
They're both pretty iconic, and I'm trying to think if I've ever run down West Weber.
I don't know, yeah.
I think I've always just gone up it, so we'll see.
But so that follows, and then you finish in Pine Canyon, which is just super pretty. So that'll be nice on Sunday, because everybody will do it during the daylight, and they'll get to see, because once you hit the rim at Pine Canyon, you have like 1,800 feet you drop in the first 2 miles. So you get a really good view as you head into the canyon. It's very cool. So those are the 3 distances. All of them require some sort of shuttle. 35K or the 40K, 42K can technically walk to their spots, like just over half a mile from the parking area. But again, this is, goes back to parking and accessibility. So we're shuttling people to all 3 locations. So the 100-mile start is a 45-minute shuttle. So you'll be getting up early and shuttling over there, and not much closer for the 100K. So anyway, we're working on that. And then we have details of that stuff online and kind of working with that stuff. But even the 42K, they'll shuttle. We'll have a bus going back and forth, but that's like a really close shuttle on Sunday. So yeah.
Excited for it?
I am. I think it'll be really cool for people to see more of the rim. It's a lot of logistics and stuff, for us to internally kind of grasp, and more aid stations and everything else. But I think it's the right move for the course, and for people coming to experience the rim. Like, this is what we want, is you to see.
Yeah, you're really kind of getting the full tour now.
Yeah.
It's like you're not missing half of it. You can get the whole thing. You might be cursing those last couple climbs, but
that's what we want.
Yeah. I mean, that was the thing for me. It's like, even on this last Sunday, it's like, man, this is tough. Some tough running up here. But then you get to the top and you see the views and you're like, oh my God.
It really is like view after view. I mean, we always joke around. We go on training runs. It's like taking pictures. It's like, I probably have 45 of these exact same picture. You know, yeah. It's like every time I come, I'm like, oh my gosh, it's so pretty.
Yeah.
But it is cool. And then you get to see, you know, from a crew or just visiting perspective, like Christopher Creek area and stuff. If you go over there, I mean, it's just a really unique area. And then bringing people to the town of Pine is cool with like their little cafes and diners, and they have a couple breweries and stuff too. So it's kind of like their gateway to the Mogollon Rim. It's kind of a little town. So it's cool to have people come experience that. Gateway
to the Rim. It's an Arizona Trail town.
Yeah.
Arizona Trail goes right through it. We'll be on the Arizona Trail, which is exciting.
It's true. Yeah.
So for those of you that are signed up or just hearing about it, we still have spots available.
Yes.
First off, we also are still seeking volunteers. So if you have a running club out there, or your family just wants to come and camp on the beautiful rim for the weekend, you know, come on out. You can go to the website and find the link to sign up, and it's really a good time.
It's super rewarding. Volunteering is it really is a rewarding thing. And you don't have to have any experience with anything, right? Like, just be willing to help the runners out. And it's cool to see the runners in different stages of their race, you know, like helping them at mile 30s a different beast than helping them at mile 75, you know, but it's cool nonetheless to be able to do that. So, and it's a great spot to spend the weekend and come up. You can drive up from the valley, or you can spend the night and camp at most of the aid stations, or nearby, if not right at it. So we'd love to have you.
Yeah. If you guys have any questions for us, you can definitely email Noah or myself, or just comment in this video. Be happy to answer it. Did we touch fully enough on the crewing stuff, or should we go a little bit more into where crews are allowed? I think that might be one last piece that we want to emphasize.
Cool. Yeah, the crewing thing, we're trying something, I don't know if it's like totally different. We've had it in the past at General Springs Cabin, but as I was saying, with the bottom of the rim being inaccessible, that's 5 of the 10 aid stations. So we've added a couple spots that are basically crews only. There's no aid station there, but we're allowing, if you have a crew, to, you know, meet up with them on the rim. So like there's a couple spots. One's in between the Fish Hatchery and Horton Creek Trail, Horton Springs Trail. And when you get up there, you'll see on the rim road, there's Pulloffs, a lot of Pulloffs, or like little forest roads off to the side where people can pull over and not be on the roadway. Super important for every crewing spot. But places you can pull over and just kind of greet your runners, even if you just cheer them on and don't offer them aid, because the distance is not that far. It would only be, say, 4.5, 5 miles from their last aid. So they're not going to be dying for drinks and stuff, but just to see them, help them out. So we have that spot. The General Springs is a similar situation, because less than 3 miles, 2.5 miles away is the actual aid station. So it's more of just, we're trying to give you guys opportunities to see your runner, or your runner to see you guys, and to spread out the field as far as car congestion. Like, that's our biggest concern, is if we didn't allow these, it would be, I think we said like 2 spots where we could actually, maybe 3 for the whole 100 milers, which is, you know, as you can imagine, that would create a lot of traffic in one spot at a time. So there's those 3. There's a third one late in the race, Dickerson Flat, which is a really cool area. Well, you just kind of, there's spots to pull off. It's like a big camping zone there, just dispersed camping. And and I think what we want is people that have crews, if you have extra supplies, like, offer it to runners that maybe don't have a crew, you know? Like, we want it to be like, we're all in this together. Everybody wants to get to the finish line, right? I think that's what's cool about trail running, is while you're competing, like, everybody's here for the same goal. So let's help everybody get there. So I think that's a big thing, and we'll really outline on the website the actual zones. We'll hopefully have signage out on the roads and stuff to you know where you can actually crew, and we want to make sure it's not just a free-for-all everywhere else on the rim, because there are other spots where the runners will be on the road, just short stretches, but we want to make sure it's a defined situation. And, you know, I think is there anything else you wanted to?
No, I think that's great. yeah, just having all those aid stations down below with no crew access. The goal is to just provide some of that, and we want it to be like a community race. I mean, that's what this was founded as, and having that chance to have crew support out there.
Yeah.
And like I said, yeah, just in those specific zones is great. So
yeah, and I think just whatever if you like I mentioned before, if you have extra water or something, I don't know that people will even need it, but if nothing else, cheer them on, right? Like just a little boost. And that was what you thought was cool at General Springs. I didn't get to see it. But.
Yeah, General Springs 2 years ago, because Washington Park could no longer accommodate crews, we had everyone go up there instead, and it was like people were lined up, got their chairs out, they're just cheering for everyone. The atmosphere I thought was amazing.
Yeah.
And I would love to see something similar in these other spots on the course. And like we were saying, the goal isn't to give some sort of like preferential treatment to those runners that have crews, and that's why we would encourage crews, bring something extra that you can like offer to anyone, where it is different. Like I haven't been to many races where it's like crews can just help out anyone in this area. But I think we're giving it a shot here, and we'll see how it goes.
Yeah, I feel like this race almost kind of requires it, or it becomes like a very limited access race, which I don't think we really want, because it is such a pretty area, and it would be cool for
we want people to enjoy it.
Yeah,
especially like if you're a crew, you're probably just going to be driving on the top of the rim all day and kind of hanging out with other crews as well. So
yeah, and that's the idea, right? That's a good point too, is when you start over by Trailhead 260, you're just going to continue west all the way to the 87, which brings you back into Strawberry and Pine. So it's like a clean east to west, and then head into town. And
I would say, like a little crew tip before you get started that morning, I would say make sure you got a full tank of gas.
Absolutely.
You got extra water, food, blankets for your vehicle, like all that kind of stuff, because there's no services up there. It's pretty remote.
Yeah, nothing, right? Like Christopher Creek has a little general store that probably closes early, and then Payson, besides Pine, would be your next closest, which is 40 minutes away. So
yeah, well, and if you're somewhere on top of the rim, it could take you an hour and a half to get out of there just to get to Payson, and then you'd have to go back up again. Right. So
yeah, be prepared. And the same thing with true directions and stuff. Make sure you have all that stuff downloaded somehow or easily accessible with Google Maps and stuff. So
phone service is limited up there too.
Yeah, phone service is best on the rim, like on the edge of the rim, and then the farther away from the rim you get, the worse it gets. So
yeah,
if you need service, just head to the edge.
Cool. Well, I think that's all we have for you guys today. Thanks, Noah, for your time.
You got it. Thank you. We're looking forward to it, everybody.
Hopefully we'll see you all in Pine in a few weeks. I'm really looking forward to that as well.
Heck yeah.
Thanks.
See you in Pine.
Sweet.
Cool. Thank you.
Thanks so much.